Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Elizabeth, and I have been waiting a long time to film this video. I filmed all of the others in a span of like 2 or 3 days maybe, and I filmed them all, I think, first week in October. It's almost Christmas, and I'm just now getting around to this one. So, this is the next video in the series I'm doing about my mom. You should really go watch the videos that lead up to this one so you get all the details straight and you're not confused with the story. But in this video, I'm going to talk about the day that they found her body, and that's going to be difficult for me, and that's why it's taken me so long to sit down and film this. I wanted to be alone in my house when I did it, and I wanted to get literally all of my notes straight, go through all of the pictures and videos, and it's just been, like, up until this point, I think I've been good. Talking through the story helps me, you know, work through it emotionally and kind of move on with my life. But, like, whenever I have a spare moment, like, this is where my mind goes, is to this day and the search and everything like that. And so I know that, like, this is just the next step in healing, and I can't do it until I get this video out of the way. So I'm going to sit down today and do it. Yeah, the other day I was taking a shower and I was just thinking about, I don't know, something with my wedding, and I just hear, like, these echoes of, like, searchers yelling, like, Sue, 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 like, going through the woods, because I could hear them from waiting on the mountain, and those thoughts won't leave my mind until I get this out of the way. So bear with me. Gosh, I didn't think this would be this hard already. Here we go. So I left off, the last video talked about what happened the weekend before and what happened that Monday, and I realized when I was going back through and editing that I never talked about, like, we would spend a lot of time at the hotel, and I would take clips of how I was feeling at certain points. I don't have a lot of them, but I'll insert one right here so you can see it. This is never, ever something that I ever thought would happen. Absolutely insane. We're still hopeful, and today brought some good news, yesterday brought some good news, and tomorrow will bring even better news. But yeah, as you can tell, I got sunburnt on the mountain, and so my face is super red, but sunscreen was not one of my necessities that I thought to pack in my hurry to get down there, so I got sunburnt. So, here we go. Tuesday morning, Tuesday, October 2nd, 2018. We wake up this morning. We got to sleep in. I don't remember really why. I think it just happened. And we all woke up to a text message and an absolutely gorgeous picture of the sunrise from the guy who was kind of coordinating and leading the search. His name was Joe. I'll talk about him a lot. But he sent us a text message that morning with this gorgeous picture and a message that said, "Wore my lucky shirt today. I've ordered all available ground and air assets into the drainage where we found the poncho. The sun is up. The sky is beautiful. I wore my lucky shirt. Morale is high. Hashtag, you are never out of the fight." And we got that message that morning. All of us were so optimistic. We were, you know, bouncing around the hotel, eating breakfast. One of my friends actually sent me a link to a song. It's called Rescue by Lauren Daigle. Literally, probably actually, the Wednesday before, and I was just not getting around to listening to it. But we had that song on repeat, you know, as getting ready for the morning and talking to one another. And I can't even listen to that song anymore without crying. Like, that's a song that literally takes me right back to that moment. So this morning, our family liaison, her name was Flory, went and picked up half of us, and then my cousin, who had met my sister the very first day of the search, came back into the area with his wife, and they drove me up the mountain with, I don't even remember who else was in the car, but I have a clip of us going up the mountain, and it was very foggy this morning also. We did hike up to the Klingman's Dome lookout thing, and then Elliot and David hung out on some rocks, and, you know, we were just hanging out. At this point, we needed stuff to do up there. Like, we just sat and worried and worried and worried, and, you know, we would talk and interact with the search and rescue members, and that made us all feel better. But, like, when no one was really there, you didn't want to, like, bother them while they were, like, getting a snack or anything. We brought up cards this day, and they were playing euchre. I don't play cards, but it was one of my mom's favorites, so that's a really good way that they pass time. And so they were playing cards. You have to remember, during this whole time, Elliot and I are still in school. I got completely excused from doing everything when I was down there, and they were like, just worry about your family now. We can do everything when you get back. And, like, that was such a blessing. Elliot did not get that blessing. I don't know what the heck was wrong with his school, but they were like, oh yeah, you still have your test due online today. So at one point he was like, yeah, I need to go down and take my test. He could do it online. And so we got in Flory's car and we rode back down the mountain. And so we got back to the hotel, and I got to take a nap. David got to watch football, basketball game, whatever the heck sporting event was on in October. And then Elliot took his test. We also got lunch at this point. That's important. Not really, but at the time it was. A little while later, we called Flory, and we're like, we're ready to go back up the mountain whenever you are. And she was like, okay. So she pulls up, we get in, and we ride up to the top of the mountain again. It's like a 45-minute drive, and about halfway up, we had decided on our own we wanted to go, but about halfway up, she pulls over because she gets a text and reads it, and puts her phone away, doesn't say anything. And I remember, like, David, like, jokingly being like, oh, I'm gonna see, like, who's she texting? Being all, like, nosy and trying to be funny. And I pulled it back because I was like, what if that's a text you don't want to see? Plot twist. It was! That was a text from Joe, letting Flory know that if we weren't already on our way back, we should be headed up the mountain because he had news. So as soon as we got to the top, they kind of shuffled us into a tent. And so all the tents up to this point had open, like, doors so you could, like, easily walk in and out. But these doors were pulled closed, and there was a sign that said private family only. So I thought that was a little bit strange, because, like, why would they take one of the tents and have it just for us? Like, this is weird. And we got in there, and the superintendent was in there. All of the, like, top of the top people were in there already. They handed us water as we came in. There were tissues sitting there. And at this point, everyone else has told me that as soon as they walked in, like, got a bottle of water and stuff, they knew. It didn't hit me yet. I had no idea. I was confused about what the update or whatever was. I thought they were going to be like, you know, she's in the hospital, she's in critical condition or something. I wasn't even sure at that point that they had found her, but it just hit me like a truck. They had us sit down in chairs. It was David, me, it was either Elliot or Emily, I don't know. They were just sitting next to me. I don't remember who was exactly where. This is going to be hard. I haven't talked about this since it happened. So, they sat us down, and my aunts and cousins and everyone who was also there sat behind us, and my dad sat behind us. It's just hard. At this point, my dad already knew, because Joe had found out from his searchers who were searching, and he was emotional about it. We had went out of the headquarter bus thing up there and was walking around the parking lot, and he was crying, and my dad saw him, so he had to tell my dad first because he was up there. And so my dad was sitting behind us and put his hands and arms and, like, wrapped all of us, like, hug from behind. And Joe sat in front of me and sat down. And he never sits down. Like, when it was serious, we would always do our, like, briefings in, like, just the open, standing up casually. And when he sat down in front of us, I knew it was serious. I didn't know what he was going to say, but I knew they had an update. Especially since early on in the search, he said, we'll never do, like, a recap or an update at night unless we have significant news. And so this was, like, probably This was at 5:15 p.m. exactly, because Tuesday before at 5:15 was the last time my mom was seen, and they pulled us into the tent Tuesday a week later at 5:15 p.m., so it was exactly a week. And Joe sat down in front of me, and he grabbed our hands and was like, I want you guys to know we found your mom. And he paused. And then he said, she didn't make it. Everything after that is a blur. Elliot and Emily started crying. My Aunt Sandy started crying. I didn't cry because I needed more concrete details about what happened, and I knew I needed to listen and be able to get them, because everyone else was going to let emotions just take over and turn off their listening ears. And so I sat there and I looked at him, and he kept going. He said that they had followed the clues they had found with the poncho in the drainage and then the footprint, and they eventually found a trail of clothes and found her body. And then he kept talking, and I still don't remember exactly what he said, but he said, I'm so sorry, your mom has died. And I've worked in a hospital long enough to know that when you tell someone they've lost a loved one, you can't just say they didn't make it, or I'm so sorry, or anything like that. You have to use the words died or dead. I've been told that for however long I've been working in healthcare, and it never made sense until that very moment I needed to hear those words to know for sure. And they were very hard to hear. And as soon as he said them, that's when I lost it. And I remember that he pulled me into a hug. And I remember this moment very, very vividly. I was hugging him, and he was hugging me. And I don't know why, but I was sitting on the very edge of my seat so that I could reach out and hug him. And I just remember my legs shaking because my legs aren't strong enough to, squat in that position and hold my whole body weight, because I don't really work out or anything anymore. And I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, my legs hurt so bad. My legs hurt so bad. And I was listening to him talk, and I got out the words. I wrote them down because I thought this was so crucial and key, and I knew that this would be a moment that would just change my life. And I looked at Joe, and I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do without her. I don't know what I'm going to do. And Joe whispered back to me, and he said, you're going to do everything you can to make her proud. Make your mother so proud, and don't ever waste any of your talents. And I wrote that down because I knew that would be so important. You know, I've gone back to that so many times since. And after I get over the initial shock, I start asking questions, because no one else is going to ask questions, and they're going to have the questions later, and they won't ever have answers. So I look at him and I say, what happened? Tell me what you mean by you found clothes and then you found her body. Tell me what you mean by you followed the path in the drainage. Point to me on a map what happened, because I need to know all of this information. And he has since printed me off a huge map so I can go over it, and I've gone over it with my family members who weren't ready to pay attention then, and that's helped tremendously. I don't want to dig it out right now because I don't want to share those exact details, but if you Google Susan Clement's body, you can find a map. It's on Google. I've Googled it. They found her body off a trail. They think that she got off trail going to the bathroom, because men can just stand on the trail and go to the bathroom. Women like to step off the trail, and some women who like extra privacy like to step extra off the trail. And I think in the fog and everything that night that she just got mixed up, couldn't find the trail. There's a lot of pieces that play in right here that I could just talk about, but I'm going to hold off on that for right now. But they found the poncho head that I talked about, and a little bit further down he described there was like a bushel or something, which is like a really thick plant, like searchers can't go through it or anything, you have to go around it. And so he said that they got to that plant and they could see that she had to step up on like kind of a muddy like slope to get around it, and in doing so that's where they found a footprint, and they saw the shoe print, like another one, slide, and she landed on her butt, and they could see all that in the mud, and so they know that she went around that and fell. And continuing down, they found, like, she had 2 pairs of pants on, and they found, like, her sweatshirt and a pair of pants and her socks and shoes and everything, like a trail going down. Because this is something I also never released to, like, social media or anything. I never came out and said it. I just said that they found her body and she died, and I didn't ever say what happened. So it was hypothermia. With hypothermia, you get really, really, really hot before you get cold. And so her taking off her clothes shows that the heat was getting too much of her. She was not in her correct mind state. I had mentioned before that she was on a cleanse for 3 or 4 days prior to going on this particular hike. So she hadn't had substantial food or anything. I talked about all this before. You can go back and watch the first video if you're curious about it. But this is something she did pretty often. It wasn't out of the ordinary. It didn't make her mentally crazy. But as she was hiking, I imagine that, you know, her nutritional status did not help the situation. I didn't identify her body until the day before her funeral. And when we went in, he told us that she had had a black eye. And so I think that she also had like a tree branch come back and like smack her in the face. And that probably also affected things. My mom hated water, never liked to swim. So in her right mind, she would have not gotten into water. But after she had taken articles of clothing off, she had gotten down into a little like creek area. I've never seen this area. I don't know. This is just what I've been told. And that's where they found her body. Her body was not damaged. It was not gotten to by animals. It was in great condition for being out there for a week. My dad had wanted to see a picture of her before the funeral home cleaned her up or anything, which was crazy. You should never do that. But he said, he called me crying afterwards, and he was like, I can't believe, like, she looked that bad. And I was like, Dad, you died, like, naturally. I know this from school this past summer, so it wasn't completely worthless for tuition. But when you die and you're laying on your back, all of your, like, mass casually, like, just goes back. And so, like, your cheeks, you can see your cheekbones better, your mouth is more hollow, your eyes kind of sink. And he thought that was because of her nutritional status, and he thought that she survived out there for like 6 days. And I was like, no, like, funeral homes stuff everyone's mouth with cotton. They put little covers under your eyelids. Like, that is normal. That gave me reassurance. I think that she died the night she went missing. I know for sure that she went off the trail that night. I will talk about that in the next video. But that's where they found her. They stayed with her body until the helicopter could come and get her, and then they took her to a hospital that night to pronounce her dead, and then to a funeral home. After we were told and we went over the map and everything, I went outside and I just walked around the parking lot for a while. I did eventually get pictures with Joe. It was like 10 minutes after he just told me my mom died, and I was like, I want a picture with you. Typical Elizabeth, right? I love those pictures, though. They mean a lot to me, so I'm glad that I did that. After the pictures, I was like, I need to go down in the woods. I need to walk down this trail. I need to see where she made the wrong turn. I need to see it. And so I started going down the trail, and David was following me. He kept saying, don't do it, don't do it. You're too emotional for this, just hang back a little bit. And I was like, I have to go do this. I have to go. down there. So I'm running down this trail. There's like steps and everything and turns and rocks, and I am just booking it. And he's going behind me, and I am screaming. Because a hard part you don't realize when your mom dies is that you can't ever just be like, hey mom, or like come home and be like, mom, I'm home. You can't ever call out her name again. And that's so hard for me to grasp. That I was running through these woods because I knew her body was still down there somewhere. It wasn't anywhere near me, but I was running and I was just screaming, Mom! 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 And I was crying, and I just, that was my emotional, like, breaking point, I think, because David caught up with me and he just grabbed me from behind and just held me, and he just kept saying, shh, it's okay, it's okay. He's my rock. But that was hard. That's been the hardest thing to do. I can't call her anymore. I can't walk through the door and be like, Mom, I'm home, or anything like that. And that's very hard for me. So at this point, Emily decides she's done. She's done with the mountain. She's done with the area. She wants to get in the car, go back to the hotel, pack up her stuff, and head home. It's like 6 o'clock at night now. We can't just pack up and head home. We have like 5-hour drive or whatever to get back. And so my dad was like, we've already paid for the night in the hotel. We're staying here to rest, and then we'll get everything together tomorrow morning and then go. So on our way down, we saw the elk come out into the middle of the road. And I mean, that was kind of cool. It would have been under different circumstances. So for me, it wasn't very cool, but it was what it was. That night, we all got back to the hotel, and all of us were so quiet. We're such a talkative bunch, and no one really said anything. And my mom's sister, Sally, and Emily just got into bed, and they just laid there, coats on, clothes from the day on, everything. They just got into bed and pulled the covers up to their chin, and they just laid there and just cried together. And I sat on the couch in the room with my Aunt Sandy, and we went over the map, and we just talked about it, but it's hard because you know the answers now, and you just wish, because we had sat in that exact same spot a week before and talked about it, and we just wish we could be like, you know, go back and search there, day one. But it's hard. It's really hard. Flora came to our room that night, and we had to decide if we wanted an autopsy done or not. I wanted a more exact time of death, so I said yes, autopsy. Everyone else really didn't care or said no, so we were like, yeah, sure, just do one. They came back and told us they couldn't do one, and so we were like, okay, that's fine. And then the day before we were supposed to have our funeral, we were supposed to have it on the Saturday after. Day before, they called and they were like, oh, I'm sorry, we're sending your body to get an autopsy. And didn't really ask or anything. They said it was required by law because hypothermia is something like a death without cause or something. I don't know, but I'm going to talk more about the autopsy and getting back home and what immediately followed and all of that in my next video. I think the next one's going to be my last one, but I'm going to film it right now, so I have no excuses to wait another month or so to do it. Be sure to subscribe to my channel so you can get notified when it comes out. Hit the notification bell if you don't want to miss it. Give this video a thumbs up because this was very, very hard for me to make, and I think I'm going to feel better now that this one's out of the way. I just have one more left. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys. For you guys, I don't know when, but for me, seeing the camera again, it'll just be like a couple seconds. So thank you so much for watching. Bye.